Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. It is upon us. It is finally here. It is the monumental game, arguably the biggest game in recent Premier League history. It is Manchester City taking on Liverpool on Sunday. We're going to be diving into it, giving a preview, giving a bit of an analysis, and of course a prediction on who walks out of Sunday's huge clash as victorious, as the winners of that, and potentially, of course, the winners of the Premier League title, because that's what this game is being built up as. This is a clash to see who will win the Premier League title. Before we get into all of that, talking about it and analysing it, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always incredibly greatly appreciated. And for now, let's get into this video, into this build-up, into this preview, because this is going to be huge. This is, like I say, this is being built up as a massive Premier League title decider. Now, of course, there's still a lot of football to be played after this game, but with the way that these two teams operate, with the way that these two teams really ever drop points, it's being built up as for the foreseeable future, whoever wins this game wins the Premier League title. Manchester City currently hold the advantage. They're top of the table, a point ahead of Liverpool in second place. So there does feel like this whole whoever wins the title. They just have to then see it out for the rest of the season. It's a massive cup final feel to it. You know that Sky are going to be building this up, as they have been sort of doing for the past several weeks and even months in doing so, building up. Everyone's had an eye on this game, even when you consider that Liverpool were 14 points behind Manchester City in January. They've done incredibly well to catch up, but everybody's sort of had this game on their minds. Everybody's had this massive clash near the end of the season, just casting an eye over it, just looking at it and saying that could be the one, because I don't remember a game feeling this big in the Premier League in so long, in terms of deciding who wins the Premier League title. I think both of these teams in recent years have, of course, set the bar so high that they basically walked the league. Last year, Manchester City walked the league because everybody else had problems. A couple of years ago, Liverpool absolutely walked the league and won it before, obviously, the whole Project Restart kind of thing happened and all COVID kind of hit and everything. The year before, both of these teams walked the league, and it was between them, but they never really had a clash later on in the season to really determine which one won. It was basically they were both relying on each other to kind of slip up in ways, and neither really did, and in the end it was Manchester City who won. Another point to make is that obviously Liverpool, like I said earlier, were 14 points behind in January. Pep Guardiola was quick to dismiss this in his press conference. He basically said that Liverpool's 14 points behind was basically a myth, and that with them having games in hand, it actually wasn't 14 points. But I will say that you still have to A, win those games in hand, and B, no one seemed to mind in 2018 or in the season where Pellegrini beat Brendan Rodgers to the Premier League title, that City had games in hand then. Everyone just saw it as Liverpool bottling the title. So whichever way you look at it, read into it what you may. But like I say, this is a massive game. Focusing on this game solely, this is gonna be huge. Everyone seems split on deciding who comes out with the 3 points in this game, who wins this game. Some people are saying Liverpool, some people are saying Manchester City. Fans are obviously backing their own teams, whereas if you're a Manchester United fan, you're just crying in a corner at this point, I imagine, because you just hate that your two biggest rivals are obviously jostling it out and fighting it out for these kinds of honours and titles. For City fans, they are very confident that they're going to beat Liverpool on Sunday, and that is basically down to the fact that it is at the Etihad, so they do hold a little bit of an advantage with it being at home there. And obviously Liverpool haven't had the best of times away from home travelling to the Etihad in previous years. But what I will say to that is, if that was to be the case, if we were to just basically go off history, and I agree that history to a certain extent provides a sort of a mental boost to the team that obviously the history is on the side of, whilst the mental block to the side that it's against. If we're to go off that solely for this season, Manchester City therefore aren't winning the Champions League, as they've never done it. So is this going to be... So I'm not saying that obviously City aren't a strong side and that City can't beat Liverpool on Sunday, but I wouldn't back against having a great record at the Etihad in recent years as a massive factor in this game to be considered completely when considering whether Manchester City will win on Sunday or not. As for Liverpool, they are of course in phenomenal form. I think they've won 10 out of 10 or something this season, still competing on multiple fronts. I wouldn't say they're playing incredibly well or as well as we know that they can, but what we are seeing now is these mentality monsters coming back. What we are seeing right now is a team that is competing on multiple fronts. And when you're competing on multiple fronts, you can't be playing 100% and full quality football throughout those tournaments in all quick succession of those games. You just have to be getting by game. And that is what we're seeing right now. They may not be playing great, but they are winning games. They are finding ways to win by any means necessary, and it is incredible to watch right now. And like I say, the form of Liverpool, the fact that they're at the Etihad, the fact that there's a sort of bad omen to smash there and get rid of, it all makes for a very intriguing game. The fact that City are on top, the fact that City don't even have to win this game. If they're that confident that they can go on the rest of the season unbeaten or on a winning streak, they don't have to even win this game. They can play this game out for a draw. And then, of course, the advantage is still within their hands, because Liverpool are having to back on another team beating City and City slipping up somewhere along the way. So that's also another factor to consider. There's a lot of factors to consider in going into this game, and it's going to make for a very intriguing and very interesting game nonetheless, because, like I say, it's being built as a Premier League title decider. What more could I say on that? As far as the team selection goes, there's a lot of things to consider again. For Liverpool, they have a clean bill of health across the board, and obviously as we get to the business end of the season, that's where the big games start to pile up, and obviously the Champions League is going to be considered in this as well. But with Liverpool beating Benfica 3-1 on Tuesday night, it means that Benfica will obviously have to go to Anfield now and try and overturn that 3-1 deficit. I can't imagine that will happen. So maybe Liverpool can afford to go strong here and then maybe rotate a little bit when it comes around to Wednesday's game against Benfica again. Whilst Manchester City obviously came out with a 1-0 victory over Atletico Madrid, and that's still a fairly dangerous scoreline. You would expect Manchester City to still go on and see the game out in that tie. But we're going back to Madrid, a side that loves to be on the chase, that loves to defend. A 0-0 or a 1-0 loss to them isn't that big of a deal. So it could be interesting to see how Pep Guardiola juggles his squad going forward between this game and that game, of course. The only notable absentee for Manchester City is, of course, Ruben Diaz. It's being said that he will miss this game, but whether that's just Pep mind games or not, because he is expected to return very soon. So whether it's Pep mind games and that Diaz will actually be in the squad or not remains to be seen. But if we are to go off what Pep has said, Ruben Diaz will not be taking any part in this game. So it actually does mean that it's going to make for a very good game, because apart from that one injury, there is no injuries, suspensions, anything of that nature in regards to both teams. So both teams are at full strength, and it's going to make for a very, very exciting game, I'm sure. So with that being said, let's dive into the team news and how both teams will play. Edison in goal, I'd imagine. Probably Kyle Walker right back if he's fit. Cancelo left back. Got to admire Cancelo, one of the better players of this season. Just casting an eye over City. Centre back pairing, I would imagine then it's going to be Stones and Laporte. I'd imagine, if that's the case. Midfield three: Rodri, De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva. I think that's going to be the case. Maybe you could go with Gundogan instead of Silva, maybe, but I'd imagine that original front three is going to be what he goes with. And then it's going to be interesting to see what he goes up front. I'd imagine Mahrez is going to be on the right, and then it could be a case of Sterling on the left, because to be fair to him, he normally does turn up at the Etihad. When he's at Anfield, I feel like he has a bit of a torrid time. But when he's at the Etihad, normally he turns up for when he's more at home and more comfortable. And then up front, he could play with Phil Foden as he normally does as the false number 9. He could also play Kevin De Bruyne as the false number 9 and drop someone back deep. But what we tend to see with Manchester City whenever they play us is they normally target Trent Alexander-Arnold, because they know that the space in behind Trent is where Liverpool is at their most vulnerable, is at their most weak. We've seen it time and time again. Earlier in the season when they played Grealish and Foden on that side, and the two just overloaded Trent on that side, and it gave them some joy. Foden scored twice simply for the reason that they overloaded that right back position. So that could be intriguing to see if they try and do something similar like that again. It would be interesting to see if they start Foden on the left this time with his more direct approach, and obviously expecting to probably hit Liverpool in the counter-attack a little bit. So that could be interesting to watch. I'd imagine that they would play Bernardo Silva just simply for the reason that they're going to use him to stand basically on Thiago and not let Thiago play those little angle passes and those little cutting inside passes that he likes to play, those little direct angle passes to the forward line. It's going to make for interesting reading on that score what Pep Guardiola decides to do. And like I say, the left back position obviously is going to be big. Cancelo seemingly is going to be against Mohamed Salah. So a right-footed left back against a guy who's left-footed on the right wing, who we know likes to cut inside. It could give Cancelo the advantage there. So that's going to be an interesting battle as well. There's going to be multiple interesting battles across the entirety of the pitch. For Liverpool, like I say, it's about a clean bill of health. We can kind of expect what team Jurgen Klopp's going to put out. There may be just one or two positions that we don't quite know or don't fully expect what he's going to do. Alisson in goal, obviously, the same back five. It's going to be Alisson in goal, Trent at right back, Robertson at left back, Van Dijk and Matip in the heart of the defence. Fabinho in CDM. Then it's a toss-up. You could either play Henderson and Thiago, you could play Keita and Thiago, you could play Henderson and Keita. I would imagine he goes for Henderson and Thiago, but Keita played superbly well midweek. Maybe they want to capitalise on that kind of form and give him another go in this game. Maybe I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see which combination of those those three midfielders, should I say, he chooses as the two to start. Right wing, obviously Salah. I think many people are questioning whether Salah should be dropped because he needs a rest or anything. I don't think he will, especially with him coming off after 60 minutes midweek. I reckon he starts. then it's going to be interesting to see who starts alongside him. Left wing, you could go with Diaz. He's been incredible and properly hit the ground running since his arrival in Liverpool and in the Premier League. He's been incredible. There's an argument to say that he could start. Mane is the typical kind of choice in this situation, start left wing, so it wouldn't surprise me if Mane starts. So it's between them two on that side. And then up front, I reckon he'll go with Firmino. I reckon he would go with Roberto Firmino because of the Rodri factor at Manchester City. I reckon he will tell Firmino to just stand on Rodri. The similar way that I said that that Pep will get Bernardo Silva to stand on Thiago, I reckon that Klopp will get Firmino just to circulate around Rodri and get him and just put pressure on him completely, and then use Diogo Jota from the bench. I know Jota's been in great form recently. I know that he's been amongst the goals. I just think that maybe for 60 minutes or so, Klopp will go with Firmino and then turn to Jota if he's in desperate need of a goal. So that's just how I believe they'll play. Like I say, we know the big battles. We already spoke about them. We already know it's going to be Thiago, Bernardo Silva. It will be Henderson, Kevin De Bruyne. It's going to be Cancelo, Mo Salah, Robertson, Mahrez, Trent versus the likes of Foden or Sterling, whichever one decides to play on that left-hand side, because it could be one or the other, or it could be Grealish. Maybe he throws in Grealish in there. And then obviously it's Van Dijk and Matip against whichever striker he goes in. It's going to make the interesting reading on that score. There's a lot of talent, a lot of big battles to be had across the pitch, and it's always a very, very intense game when these two teams met, and this one is going to be no different, especially when you consider that the Premier League title is possibly going to be on the line as well in this game. So as far as the prediction goes, look, I am obviously a Liverpool fan, so slightly biased in here to be obviously pulling for Liverpool to win. But I see us doing it. I genuinely see us winning this game, not just simply for the reason of I hope and I wish, but I think with the form we're going into this game with, I think with the back line that we've got that has been solid, a goalkeeper that has been ever so consistent all season, one or two mistakes here and there, sure, but for the most part been ever so consistent, and it's a case of you may get behind our high line, but A, you're most likely offside, and B, you've still got to get past our brick wall of a goalkeeper, and that very rarely happens. So I just think the back five has been solid all season. I think our midfield three is extremely strong, and I think we've got options now coming off the bench. Like I say, if he starts with Henderson and Thiago, you can throw a Keita on there. You can throw a wild card in like Harvey Elliott on there or Curtis Jones on there. Oxlade-Chamberlain could be another wild card. We've got some pretty good wild cards in there and some pretty good options coming off the bench there. So it's a strong midfield. And like I say, our strike force, Salah may not be in the best form right now, but I think all it will take is one moment of brilliance for him to get back and click back into gear. So that could be the case. Mane has been strong throughout most of the season. Not quite hit the heights of a few years ago, but it's still pretty strong. Luis Diaz coming off the bench at any point. Again, I think he would terrorise that Manchester City backline if they go for like 60, 70 minutes and then they go, right, who's coming on now? Oh, Luis Diaz. Oh, great. I've got to like contend with him now because of his tenacity, his pace, his speed, and just the way, and just his control and touch is incredible. So that could be a wild card. And then obviously the work rate of Firmino, and then his backup in Diogo Jota with his movement and his positioning, and obviously his ice cold composure in front of goal. I just think in the attack in particular, I just think that Liverpool have too much for City to handle. I don't think Manchester City have a killer cutting instinct up front. And whilst they will get some joy, of course they will, because they're Manchester City and they're a fantastic team. And of course they will target the fullback areas where Trent will push on and Robertson will push on. And obviously they'll try and exploit the space from behind. They'll get some joy there, but it's all about whether they can take their chances. And as we've seen a few times this season against decent defences, sometimes they just don't take their chances when they fall. We saw that against Southampton. We saw that against Crystal Palace. So maybe it will happen again here. And that is all why I am backing Liverpool to win. Not just because I'm a Liverpool fan, but also because of that. There is another scenario in this that I would just want to talk about. A draw. It would be very typical of all this hype, all of this build-up, and in the end, it's just a 1-1 draw or something, or a 2-2 draw or something. And we still are none the wiser as to who wins the Premier League. I don't think we actually know who's going to win anyway regarding this. I still think there are several games left of the season. I still think there are plenty of points that are to be dropped. Or possibly to be dropped between now and then. I think both teams have got some pretty tough fixtures. I think Liverpool have the toughest run-in out of the two teams. But it is very likely in these scenarios that a draw will happen. So I just want to throw that out there as well and say that a 1-1 or a 2-2 draw here wouldn't surprise me one bit. And I don't think it's a bad result for Manchester City, this. But, like I say, I am leaning more towards a Liverpool victory. Manchester City loss, a Liverpool victory. And I think they will break this sort of bad omen at the Etihad that all these Manchester City fans are very confident with having as a reason as to why they will win on Sunday. So finally, final score predictions. With that being said, like I say, a draw wouldn't surprise me, but I've got to back Liverpool. I've got to back Liverpool for a number of reasons, for the reasons I've said, and that is why I am going to go for a 2-1 Liverpool victory. And I think that Salah will get on the score sheet, and I want to throw it out there that I think Mane will as well. I think Mane and Salah will both get on the score sheet for Liverpool, and Phil Foden will score for Manchester City. But as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this monumental possible Premier League title deciding game on Sunday as Manchester City and Liverpool prepare to go into battle at the Etihad Stadium? I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, and most of all, of course, your predictions on this game down in the comment section below, because I'm sure it'll all make for interesting reading. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way and enjoy the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video. Enjoy the game on Sunday. If obviously you're associated with one of the two clubs, try not to get too nervous about it. But otherwise, enjoy the game as a neutral, because I'm sure it'll be an excellent game of football. And I will see you all again soon in another video.